and welcome to the Returning to College in the Coronavirus Pandemic webinar. My name's Amber. I'm an education wellbeing practitioner at your college, and I'm going to be talking to you today about things that you can do to manage some of your worries about the return. This video captures what some young people have reported during the pandemic and during lockdown. You may have mixed feelings about going back to college, so you might be really excited to see friends and happy to get out of the house. You might also, just be feeling a bit worried about the change. Might have felt quite comfortable being at home and now it's going back out. It's common to have some worries around coronavirus, whether that's catching it yourself or passing it on to somebody more vulnerable, maybe. It's also really natural to have some concerns about catching up after being off and studying from home for this period of time again. So hopefully by the end of this presentation, you'll have some new ways of coping and managing these feelings and worries. The video you're about to see will talk you through how our bodies respond to perceived threats and how this can result in a real increase in our anxiety.
Humans, like all species, have self-protective mechanisms to help us survive. Our fight, flight or freeze survival response, the FFF for short, is designed to mobilize our brain and body to fight an enemy, run from an avalanche, or freeze to hide from a predator. Our brain sometimes misinterprets safe situations as dangerous and can set off false alarms. When the amygdala, our brain's watchdog, senses and barks danger, our body enters survival mode quicker than our rational mind can react, leaving it trying to figure out why we feel in mortal danger. When the FFF alarm is sounded, we start to breathe more quickly and shallow, causing hyperventilation, and our heart starts beating very fast. These changes can cause strong chest pain, which many people interpret as symptoms of a heart attack, when in fact it's just a result of the FFF activation, which can be relieved through breathing exercises. As a way of getting you ready for action, blood is diverted towards the major muscle groups. Blood flows away from our digestive system, causing the bladder to relax, and we might feel the need to pee. The mouth goes dry, nausea can occur, and we get the butterflies feeling in our stomach. Blood also rushes from extremities, leaving us with cold hands, but often sweaty palms as the action-ready body starts sweating to avoid overheating. Legs and hands can start trembling and feel weak, while tension starts building in big muscles like the thighs, neck, and shoulders. In our head, FFF alarms cause our brain to focus on negative memories, probably so it can scan them to avoid danger and negative outcomes. We get tunnel vision as our pupils dilate to increase our focus and long vision, but as a result we lose our peripheral vision. FFF activation also reduces our ability to recognize differences in facial expressions. Too much oxygen and too little CO2 can result in dizziness or lightheadedness, which many people interpret as signs that they might faint. But because fainting is caused by a drastic drop in blood pressure, and because the FFF increases both our heart rate and blood pressure, it's nearly impossible to faint when this happens. Over time, depression, anxiety, and high levels of stress all harm the brain's ability to slow or cancel false FFF activations, causing them to happen more often. Knowing the symptoms of false activations makes it easier to recognize and reduce their effects. At Tanky Boxing, you can learn both bottom-up and top-down techniques to reduce false FFF activation and bring your body back to balance.
So how does this impact us on a day-to-day basis? So the FFF response can really affect our sleep. You might find a lot of worries enter your head when you try to go to bed. It might make it quite difficult to relax and fall asleep. The changes to college, so starting later during lockdown, maybe you were staying up a lot later in the evenings and playing games or talking to friends, family, watching stuff, and maybe you missed out on a lot of sleep because of that. Um, the FFF response also impacts our appetite. So loss of appetite is really common when experiencing worries or anxiety. And when this FFF alarm sounds, the blood runs away from our stomach to other areas in the body. And that can cause the feeling of butterflies in our stomach or feeling quite sick and nauseous. So if you've ever, for example, found that it's really hard to eat something on the morning when you've got a test coming up, that is an example of when our FFF response might be going off at this sort of worry about how we're going to do in the exam. It might also trigger some rumination. So that's when, when we're feeling anxious, we're quite drawn to negative thoughts. So we might be thinking about, what might go wrong or the worst that might happen. And that can leave us feeling really scared and really quite down sometimes as well. So that's the sort of repetition and deep consideration, giving a lot of time to these kind of quite worrying negative thoughts. And once we're drawn in by these types of thoughts, it can be really difficult to find a way out. You might have also found that sort of lockdown has impacted your home life. So maybe spending extended periods of time at home has brought different challenges. So maybe that means you've argued more with parents or siblings or who else you live with. Um, experiencing this type of anxiety can be really horrible, and it can make it difficult to manage your emotions as well. You might find that social isolation has been quite a big thing during lockdown. So um, especially if you're feeling quite anxious, you might have avoided speaking to friends or other people, and that might have left you feeling a little bit more lonely and isolated, and also impacted your mood, making you feel a little bit more sad as well. Procrastination has been a big difficulty a lot of young people have struggled with. It might have felt really difficult to motivate yourself, especially if you're experiencing worries or, worrying thoughts about exams or college work. And I guess avoiding college work may, in the short term relieve some of the anxiety, but in the long term it can increase our worries, give us more to worry about, because we maybe haven't got what we needed to done, which can increase our stress. So next we're going to hear from Jake, who will talk about his experience of lockdown and being asked to return to school.
At first I was quite excited to be off school, and I thought it would be fun being at home. But then I realised that everything was quite serious, and I wouldn't be able to see my friends every day or go out much. I found it hard. I normally play a lot of basketball and football, and obviously couldn't do this. After a couple of weeks, I started to lose motivation, and didn't feel like doing much at all. It was also hard being at home, with my whole family and my little brothers, and it got on my nerves. Then my mum said we'd be coming back to school. I was glad at first, because it meant I would see my friends, but then I realised school just wouldn't be the same, because we'd all be split into groups. I'm quite worried about being back and having to do exams next year. I found it hard to do my work at home, and I don't think I'll be able to catch up. I want to go to uni, but maybe now I won't be able to. My mum is also worried about me being back at school and being around so many people. She was really ill a few years ago, and I don't want to make her sick again. It feels like Corona is going to be around forever. In the last few weeks, it has made me quite stressed. It's been hard to switch off, so I've been playing Xbox until quite late. I've struggled to concentrate and have missed quite a bit of work. It feels like it's getting on top of me, to be honest.
Now it's over to you, just to have a little think about what you've heard so far and how this relates to your own experience of lockdown. So what can we do differently to help manage any worry or anxiety we might be feeling? We all worry from time to time, and sometimes we can get really wrapped up in our negative thoughts, which serves to just keep our anxiety going. So sometimes taking a step back and looking at these thoughts by thinking like a judge can be really helpful. So when we think like a judge, we act as both the prosecution and the defense. So we need to really gather evidence both for and against the thought. It's important to note that it'll be difficult to access your rational sort of judge brain if you're in the FFF response. So when you're in that alarm, danger mode, the thinking part of our brain really shuts down so that we can act quickly. So it may help to use some of the relaxation strategies that we're going to be going over first before attempting to do this exercise if you find that you're really worked up and really anxious. So this is Jess. Jess is worried that she's going to fail her college course. Let's ask Judge Rinder to help Jess with some of this worry. So Judge Rinder asks Jess to imagine that she's the prosecution and to think about the evidence for this worry. She says that she's struggled to understand some of her lessons while she's been working from home, and she's also really been struggling to get on with her assignments. Judge Rinder then asks Jess to look at the defence, and Jess remembers that she was really completing her coursework, her assignments on time before lockdown, and that her teachers offered a lot of support. They've said, they really want students to do well and they don't want students to fail, and they understand that they're feeling under pressure. So now ask yourself, what would Judge Rinder do? So Judge Rinder loves balance, and after looking at the evidence for and against Jess's thought, he helps her to think of a more balanced way of looking at the future. So she's able to see that while she's really struggled with some of her learning during lockdown, a lot of other students have as well. So they're in the same boat as her. And her teachers are really going to try and support the class and other students to catch up too. She also recognises that she does have time left on the course, so she's got a bit of time to catch up. And whilst her not passing is unlikely, if that was to happen, it wouldn't be the end of the world because a lot of other colleges or employers, generally people really understand that given the pandemic, a lot of people have struggled and may not have done as well as they would have under different circumstances. Now we're going to look at problem solving. So this is another technique you can try if you're worried about a situation or problem where you have some influence or where it's possible to make changes. It's not often helpful if you're really worrying about something that is out of your control. Step one is to identify your problem. So what's causing the worry? What's causing all the anxiety? In this example, it's somebody that's really worried about catching coronavirus when they're back at college. Step 2 is to identify a range of solutions. So once you know what your problem is, it's time to list a range of solutions. If you're really struggling at this step, it might be helpful to speak to a friend, a parent, or a trusted person at college who might be able to help. You can list as many solutions as you like, and you can be really creative here. Even if you think it's quite out there and it might not be possible to do, still put it down. And you can maybe write them down in a list. So we've got some examples here of some solutions. I could ask to keep the window open. I could stay at least 2 meters away from people around me when I'm outside. I could wear a mask. I could take hand sanitizer with me. Step 3, look at the pros and cons of each solution. So for example, I could stay at home and not go anywhere until there's a cure. Whilst that one could be tempting and it would significantly reduce the likelihood of catching the virus, the con, a really big con, would be you wouldn't be able to see any of your friends or other family members or do any of the things that you enjoy. Step 4 is to rate your solutions. So look at your solutions and you want to rate them from 0 to 10 and how good and how doable they are. So 0, not very good and not very doable, to 10, very good and very doable. And pick your top 2 solutions to try out. What's good is you can always revisit your list of solutions. If one doesn't work out, you can go back and try the next one and so on. So relaxation techniques are really important for bringing stress levels down and managing the physical sensations of anxiety. So if the FFF response is triggered in different situations, this is how you can bring that down and help yourself to feel more relaxed and more able to tackle the situation at hand. So this is a really simple breathing technique. So do have a go, follow along with the video, breathing in through your nose and out through your mouth. Another really helpful relaxation technique is progressive muscle relaxation. And we've got a lovely video with a CAMS practitioner talking you through how to do it.
Hi, my name's Emily, and I'm going to be talking to you about how to do progressive muscle relaxation. So sometimes when we get really anxious, stressed, or worried, our bodies hold a lot of tension and our muscles get really tight. And you might not even realize that this has happened. And different people hold their tension in different parts of their body. So for me, I know when I'm stressed, my jaw gets really tight and I'll sometimes kind of clench my teeth. At other times, I'll notice that I feel really tight across my neck and my shoulders, and often my shoulders are very hunched like this when I'm very stressed. But we hold tension all through our body. So one of the things that we can do if we're feeling anxious or worried or stressed or angry is check out our bodies and do a bit of a scan and see how they're feeling. So if you start at the top of your head and really focus on how your body's feeling and work down. So start at the top, work down through your neck and your shoulders, into your chest and tummy, and into your kind of thighs and legs, down into your feet. Try to identify any particular area of tension. Now, we're going to start at the very top and we're going to learn how to relax and release the tension in our muscles. So starting with your head, just kind of check out your jaw and your neck and make sure that if you are clenched or biting kind of your tongue or your teeth and you're holding any tension, try to kind of relax those muscles and very gently relax the muscles in your neck. So you might want to kind of move your head slightly. Drop your shoulders. Release the tension from your shoulders by letting them drop low. And then thinking about your arms and your hands, you can clench your fists tight to tense them and then relax them. And then let your arms kind of go loose and floppy by the sides of your body and just very gently shake your arms out a little bit. Then moving down through your chest and into your stomach, just kind of notice, and your back, notice any kind of area of tension. And you might want to kind of stretch up really high and tall, as tall as you can, and then relax and take a deep breath. And as you exhale, allow your body to kind of fully relax with you. Then move down further into your legs and tense your legs as hard as you can. Tense the muscles in your legs and in your feet and in your toes. Clench them tight, 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 and then relax. Let them kind of go loose and floppy and heavy. And through doing that process, starting at the head and working all the way down through to your toes, and by clenching and tensing and then releasing and relaxing, hopefully you'll notice any particular areas of tension that you can then refocus on and work on relaxing those. But also you've just given your body a very quick workout in terms of relaxing and releasing that tension. And that might help you to feel a little calmer.
We're now going to look at sleep, which, as you probably know, is really important for helping us to stay healthy, both for our body and for our mind. Let's do a bit of a sleep quiz to see how much you already know. So how many hours sleep a day should a 16 to 18-year-old have? The answer is B, 8 to 10 hours. And for adults, that's between 7 and 9 hours that you'd be aiming for. How can our phones affect our sleep? Have you had a guess? The answer is all of the ways listed here on this slide. As humans, we do really well having a routine. So doing the same relaxing things in the same order at the same time each night before going to bed really lets your body and brain know that it's time for sleep. You might already have a bit of a bedtime routine, but it may just need a little bit of tweaking here and there. You might find that your sleeping pattern has completely shifted during lockdown, or even just a little bit. And the following video provides some helpful tips for getting things back on track for when you do start back at college. Now, we all know that exercise is good for keeping fit and keeping healthy, but more and more research is showing the incredible impact exercise has on lifting our mood and reducing anxiety. So young people should really aim for 60 minutes of moderate activity every day. So this could be spread across the day, and it's really good to try and take a range of different activities for exercise. So, for example, it could be like walking, cycling, skateboarding, or riding a scooter, or doing some high intensity exercise as well, like football, basketball, running, or HIIT training, or maybe even tennis a few times a week could be beneficial. It's also really important to make sure you have a good balance throughout the week. So yeah, it's really important to do your college work and to do your studying. And there might be chores and things like that that you need to do, but it's also really important to make time for friends, make time for family, and for your hobbies and your interests as well. So if you think you haven't got the balance quite right, it can be really helpful to keep a diary across the week, and then you can have a look and review and see maybe which areas you need to focus a little bit more attention and start planning in some activities based around that. Um, and don't forget to factor in time for exercise, eating well, and of course, sleep. So, and before we finish, let's hear part 2 of Jake's story, where he tells us about his experience of lockdown.
It's actually been okay coming back to school. It's been good seeing my friends, and although we've split up, I've realised that seeing a couple of people is better than it was being at home all the time. The teachers have been chill, and they're not putting too much pressure on us. They've said how they will help us to catch up, and I feel like maybe I'll be able to do the exams. Before, I was avoiding doing any work, but now we've got more help, it feels a lot easier to do it. And now I've been back for a few days, my mum is feeling less stressed too, which is really good. Now I'm back at school, I'm also feeling a bit more tired at night, so I've been able to sleep better. I think that's helped. I've got a bit more energy, and I've started to play a bit of basketball with a couple of my mates, which has also been good. I feel a bit better about it all now, yeah.
And we've come to the end now. I really hope that you found it helpful. If you do find that you're struggling with your anxiety as you get back to college, or you're concerned more generally about your mental health, please do go and speak to a member of the pastoral team or student services at your college so that you can get some extra support. And if you'd like to hear more about the EWP service and what we offer, again, please do check in with student services who will be able to give you some more information. Thank you.